Hi everyone, this is Volodymyr Krut, and today we will talk about microbial insecticides simply. Biological pest control was the first step of agronomists into the unknown. Since the 17th century, there have been known ways to control pests with various plant extracts and nicotine, imported to Europe at the right time. As for the microbiological agents of biocontrol, in 1835 Agostino Bassi named the Bavaria bassiana fungus in his honor and immediately demonstrated its ability to cause a muscardine disease in silkworms. Another superstar of microbial insecticides is Bacillus thuringiensis, also known as BT. It was first selected in 1901 by Japanese scientist Ishiwata Shigitana, and a little later classified and described by Emil Bellina, a microbiologist from Thuringia, who is more modest than Agostino Bassi. One way or another, in 1938 the first commercial product based on BT spores entered the market in France. This concludes our brief journey into history, and now let's address pathogenesis. It is pathogenesis that will be covered further on, because all microbial insecticides are pathogens of certain insect diseases. And since every creature can have diseases, the range of potential targets of biological insecticides is actually not limited to anything. You just need to identify a sick insect in natural conditions, isolate a pathogenic microbe from it, make sure that it really causes the death of the pest, learn how to grow it on an industrial scale, and figure out how to make insects come into contact with that grown one. There is another way. If a pathogenic microbe secretes a certain compound that is deadly to insects, then you need to find it, determine it, force the microorganism to form more of it, and again find an effective method to apply all this to plants suffering from the invasion of parasites. Therefore, microbial insecticides can be divided into two groups. The first one is contact insecticides. They just need to get on the insect's body. This group includes insecticides based on spores of live fungi of the genera Bavaria, Metarhizium, Bacillus, or biologically active compounds formed by other microorganisms, for example Streptomycetaceae. Another group is products based on lipophilic bacteria that need to get inside the insect. These drugs include those created on the basis of the bacteria Bacillus thuringiensis, Bacillus ferocus or others. There are also biological insecticides created on the basis of insect viruses, but they are currently not widespread due to the complexity of production and use, because the virus can only grow in the living tissues of the host, and ensuring its contact with the target is generally a long story. And although mentioning the perspective of virus-based developments in 2021 is considered bad manners, it is still worth to mention the great potential of this method of pest control in the future. So let's take a close look at exactly how microorganisms affect insects. Let's start with Bavaria and Metarhizium. Their principle of action is generally similar and consists of several stages. First, the fungus spore gets on the surface of the insect, attaches to it and germinates. Next, the fungus forms a very interesting organ, a pressorium. It is interesting to know that an extremely high pressure is created at the end of this organ, and the fungus pierces the insect shell like an awl with this organ, sprouting inside with another organ, the hostorium. Now, the mycelium of the fungus grows freely inside the insect, leading to its death, and forms spores that spread into the environment and infect new pests. Such insecticides are particularly effective in the soil, where they can control the number of harmful beetles and caterpillars, such as May beetles, click beetles, Diabrotica, and many others. And now let's talk about a very selective entomopathogen, Bacillus thuringiensis. This bacterium is a slayer of all sorts of leaf-eating pests. The Colorado potato beetle, fall webworm, pyralid moths, owlet moths, all those who gnaw on the plant fall prey to Bacillus thuringiensis. Still, there's one important detail. Adults are usually resistant to the effects of this bacteria, so you need to control the number of pests in the early stages, immediately after hatch from eggs. At the same time, Bacillus thuringiensis is absolutely safe for animals, birds and, most importantly, pollinating insects and entomophages. This selectivity is related to the mechanism of action of Bacillus thuringiensis. Firstly, the infectious process begins when the insect swallows a piece of the plant where the bacillus spores are located. Secondly, together with the spore, BT forms a protein crystal, which is an inactive form of the toxin. But this protein can only be activated in the intestines of a leaf-eating insect, under the influence of its enzymes and the corresponding pH. So, beneficial insects and herbivorous animals simply do not provoke the action of this toxin, but the intestinal motility of a pest under the influence of the active toxin stops, which leads to nutrition cessation and death by starvation. In addition, the termination of bacillus spores inside the insect causes the infectious process, ending in septic infection and death. After that, Bacillus thuringiensis spores and protoxin crystals formed with them are released into the environment. And finally, we have another very controversial biological method of plant protection – GMO products. We'll address them just briefly. For example, the well-known genetically modified potato received the Bacillus thuringiensis genus, which is responsible for protoxin synthesis. Thus, from the main food source for pests, it turned into a self-contained insecticide, which is absolutely safe for helpful insects and warm-blooded animals. As we remember, this protoxin can only be activated in the intestines of leaf-eating insects. But for whatever reason, the humanity was not ready to accept genetically modified organisms. That is why you're watching this video about using Bacillus thuringiensis as living cells. That's all for today. I hope the information was interesting and helpful. Subscribe to our channel, smash the thumbs up, and see you in the next video.